The next item of business is members' business debate on motion 18053 in the name of Maurice Corrie on Great British Beach Clean. And this debate will be concluded without any questions being put. Would those who wish to speak in the debate please press the request to speak buttons, and I call on Maurice Corrie to open the debate for around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. First of all, I'd like to thank all the members who very kindly signed my motion, member's motion, recently to allow this debate to take place. And I'm so pleased today to be able to speak on this amazing Great British Beach Clean. Every September, we all can take part in a beach clean and collect data from the litter we find. This year's National Beach Clean took place from the 20th to the 23rd of September, and I was happy enough to join the local beach clean in Arica, where almost 1,000 articles were collected by volunteers and myself in a 100-metre stretch. Organised by the Marine Conservation Society, this innovative project has long promoted the importance and necessity of ensuring our beaches are clean while at the same time protecting marine life. The work of MCS has confronted us all with this threat of the plastic tide. There is now more litter in our waters than ever before, and for this precise reason, we cannot underestimate the damaging legacy of plastic. Ocean pollution has reached an emergency scale, a true crisis, and across hundreds of different and unique species, we are seeing many cases of marine life becoming entangled in or accidentally swallowing plastic and other litter. By 2050, the estimation is that there will be more plastic in our seas than fish, as long as we carry on using plastic as much as we do. But with the Great British Beach Clean, we have the opportunity to not only raise awareness, but also to contribute to vital information gathering on marine litter. For those who take part, all they have to do is to survey a 100-metre stretch of the beach and tally each piece of litter they find. This information, gathered from every beach clean around the UK, is collected into a database which then informs the work and focus of the Marine Conservation Society. Indeed, it helps to shape awareness-raising campaigns to reduce sources of litter. For others, experts and organisations in the marine litter field, data such as this informs their research of pollution trends immensely. On both a national and international scale, there is a citizen science project at its heart. And through partnership, every volunteer can become part of the wider movement in caring for marine life. As a huge-scale, cross-generational and collaborative effort between volunteers and experts, the Great British Beach Clean is an innovative organic project. As part of the international coastal cleanup, it allows communities to rally together in their passion for protecting their coastline. Even for families with children, helping out at their local beach clean is a practical and fun way to learn about the consequences of marine litter. And 2020 will be the year of coast and waters and of the whole host of events planned to promote Scotland's natural environment and encourage responsible engagement. As part of this, it would be fantastic for Beach Clean volunteering to reach its highest numbers ever. And indeed, MCS has already seen a rise in volunteer figures from just over 200 in its first year of the Great British Beach Clean to around 2,900 in 2018, which is an incredible advance. My local beach clean under the GBBC banner was organised by the Grab Trust this year, based in Argyll and Bute. And for the past 20 years, Grab has worked not only with MCS, but also with different organisations such as Marine Scotland, the Loch Lomond Trossachs and National Park, Keep Scotland Beautiful, to promote recycling and beach cleaning in local schools and the wider community. Awareness of beach cleans has grown to the extent that the Marine Conservation Society can say they are finally mainstream, and long may this continue. Even documentaries, which I'm sure you've all seen, such as the Blue Planet series or Drowning in Plastic, have all helped to open this topic wide open. They have shown the horrifying impact of litter on precious marine wildlife and have motivated many of us to do something about it. Each contribution helps, especially when we consider that Scotland is lagging behind the rest of the UK when it comes to the scale of marine litter. And indeed, while there have been an overall reduction of 16% for the UK last year, Scotland saw a 14% increase. More polystyrene, microplastic and sewage-related debris, such as wet wipes and cotton buds, were found on Scottish beaches than anywhere else in the UK, during the Arica beach clean, over 90% of what we found was either plastic or polystyrene. And moreover, I have read of the increasing problem of cigarette filters on the beaches, which were the #1 item found by volunteers across the world. As these cigarette butts slowly degrade into small pieces of plastic, they spread damaging toxins into the environment. And such litter knows and shows that the extent of the problem we have and the generations to come face. And we must be aware of our part to play in it. After 26 years, the MCS Beach Clean have brought about forward-thinking and forward-looking positive changes in policy. For example, and for instance, a reduction in plastic straw use, the introduction of the 5p carrier bag charge, commitments to push for deposit return schemes for cans and bottles. These progressive changes have come about from the findings contained within these annual surveys. But with the ocean and climate emergencies reaching an ever-critical stage, we cannot afford to be complacent in our decision-making. For the sake of Scotland's waters and wildlife, we need to promote efficiency and sustainability as the pillars of any legislation concerning our environment. And for instance, the promise to implement the deposit return scheme by April 2021, a scheme which includes glass, plastic and metal, should be realised. Further to this, we can all do our part to encourage reusable packaging and reduce the amount of single-use plastics, a common find on beach cleans. We have to realise that despite fluctuations over the years, the litter trend is rising, and so pushing forward change such as this is absolutely fundamental. The scale of the issue, we recognise, is far wider than we can possibly know, as there are still beach cleans on our coastlines that have yet to be unsurveyed. And to conclude, Deputy Presiding Officer, each year the MCS has garnered more and more data, and this year they hope to reach more beaches than ever before with an even bigger army of volunteers. Each contribution informs the data, which in turn informs change. This is how we can gain a greater understanding of how we can stop litter right at its source. Thank you.
We move to the open debate and speeches of 4 minutes, please. Kenneth Gibson, followed by Finlay Carson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I congratulate Maurice Corrie in securing today's debate, recognising the important work of the Marine Conservation Society in keeping beaches clean and helping marine wildlife. The MCS is the UK's leading marine environment charity and campaigns to increase protection of the seas around our coasts. The Society organises an annual Great British Beach Clean held on 20 to 23rd of September this year, the largest volunteer beach clean and litter survey in the UK, and this was its 26th year. The Beach Clean programme has a dual purpose. Firstly, local volunteers help clean beaches to preserve the coastal environment and reduce the immense pressure on the planet's oceans. Secondly, the Society conducts a detailed survey of items collected, as Maurice Corrie outlined. This data is added to the MCS litter database and sent to ministers to inform policy. Last month, 12 beach cleans took place in North Ayrshire. I participated in the Largs Beach Clean in my constituency on the Dreich morning of Sunday 23rd of September with Patricia Gibson MP and 16 other volunteers. Together we cleaned the beach from the RNLI station on Largs Promenade to the marina, collecting 67 kilograms of litter, an old fish box, a car wheel, and were then thawed out by complimentary coffee, tea and bacon rolls at Scott's in Largs Marina. Last year, 15,000 volunteers cleaned 494 UK beaches, collecting a staggering 8,550 kilograms of litter. In Scotland, volunteer numbers rose 83%, with 22% more beaches cleaned and 559 items collected per 100 metres, compared to a UK average of 601 items. There are 8 main types of coastal litter: plastic, glass, metal, cloth, paper, polystyrene, rubber and wood. Up to 12.7 million tonnes of plastic are dumped in the sea globally each year, the equivalent of a truck full a minute. This is shocking, given that a single plastic bottle can remain intact for 450 years and then only degrade into smaller pieces. According to the International Coastal Cleanup Report, the most common piece of litter found in beach cleans across the world are cigarette butts. Almost 4,000 million cigarettes are smoked in Scotland each year. The cellulose acetate plastic filters take years to degrade and leach toxins into the environment. Beach litter has a significant impact on marine wildlife. Almost 98% of dead North Sea fulmars studied had plastic in their stomachs. And the economic cost of coastal marine litter to the Scottish fishing industry alone was £13 million last year. Globally, millions of birds, marine animals and sea turtles die each year after either becoming entangled in or eating plastic materials, whilst plastic has undoubtedly entered the food chain through the fish we eat. An estimated 70% of marine litter sinks to the bottom of the sea, 15% floats and 15% is washed up on our coast, so beach cleans give only a flavour of the magnitude of the damage inflicted. Keep Scotland Beautiful has developed a national Clean Up Scotland campaign which has supported over 620,000 participants who removed over 6,000 tonnes of litter from across Scotland since it began. Keep Scotland Beautiful also piloted at My Beach, Your Beach last summer, encouraging behavioural change and raising awareness of beach littering. Presiding Officer, I myself have organised many beach cleans. For example, the annual Cumbria Beach Clean, which I have organised and participated in for the last 13 consecutive years. We should all play our part in preserving Scotland's beautiful coastal environment. An increased willingness to beach clean is undoubtedly due to the success of programmes such as Blue Planet 2, which showed starkly the impact of marine pollution. In closing, I commend all the volunteers who participated in the 2019 Great British Beach Clean and thank them for their efforts to ensure our beaches are cleaner, less hazardous to wildlife and safer for people to enjoy. And I thank Maurice Corrie again for bringing this debate to the Chamber.
Finlay Carson, followed by Angus MacDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. And I too thank my colleague Maurice Corrie for bringing this debate to the Chamber. As a member of the Environment, Climate Change and Land Reform Committee, as well as my party spokesman in the natural environment, this subject is close to my heart. With the Climate Change Bill passing last week in this Parliament, we are at a critical stage of how we ensure we protect our natural environment, and we must all do our bit. I am biased, but everybody knows that my constituency of Galloway and Weston Fries is the most picturesque of all constituencies and has one of the most wonderful coastline in all of Scotland. Indeed, the Minister, Mary Goujon, really visited it and was full of praise for the area, and I look forward to having more conversations about the creation of a Galloway National Park on that basis. It's clear that more and more people are recognising the need to do more to ensure our beaches are litter-free, and that's what's even more encouraging about the intergenerational link-up between our young folk and our not-so-young folk, putting their hearts and souls into the ever more frequent beach cleans we see across the country. Many groups have emerged in Dumfries and Galloway in recent months and years who are doing great work to clear up our beaches, which are sadly overloaded with litter and plastic. DG Eco Warriors have been carrying out regular beach cleans since 2018. The Mullock Bay was the targeted beach over the beach clean-up weekend, with lots collected from those in attendance. And I'm sure that the Grey Seals, keeping a close eye on things, certainly enjoyed seeing their beach being tidied up. And not for the first time, Hardgate Primary School pupils should be extremely proud of themselves for taking part in a beach clean at Brighouse Bay in Kirkcudbright, collecting and surveying the waste, and they ended up gathering 29 kilos in total, largely being plastic in nature. Beach litter is an extremely sad sight, but it fills me with optimism when I see youngsters getting involved and appreciating how important our natural environment is to all our futures. Another mammoth clean-up was led by the plastic-free communities Dumfries and Galloway, alongside the local Oceans Need Us, the Solway Firth Partnership, SNH and SEPA at Cairndoon Shore, with 29 volunteers turning out. And a huge skip was filled in 4 hours. It's quite astonishing just how much people can lift off the beach in one clean. Now, as a member of the Clare Committee, we're soon to start work scrutinising the Government's DRS, the Deposit Return Scheme proposals. And a successful scheme will do a lot of good in Scotland and the rest of the UK. One of its benefits will be to substantially reduce drinks container litter, leaving our pavements, hills and, as a result, beaches free from this type of litter. Scotland spends £75 million a year dealing with litter and its effects, and that money could be far better spent on other services. And many people spend hours volunteering to clear up the litter, and their time could be better spent just enjoying the natural environment. A properly implemented, preferably UK-wide deposit return scheme would significantly reduce drink container litter, which makes up a significant part of our beach litter. And this is a system I know that the Marine Conservation Society approves of. The DG Warriors motto is "Together we can make a difference," and I believe that's a sentiment that should be spread right across our communities. Beach cleans are a fun way of helping out the community as well as protecting our natural environment. Earlier this year, the group highlighted how the shores at Berlocal Bay and Castlemuir in the Stuart region were the worst they'd ever seen. Items that had been dumped or washed up on the beach included wheelie bins, traffic cones, parking bollards and 30 or 40 fishing boats. The group said every step was on plastic and it would take days to fully clean it up. Having lived in Dumfries and Galloway all my life and enjoyed numerous days out to our stunning coastal towns and villages, I want to keep future generations to experience them in pristine condition. The fact that the litter on beaches has risen by 14% in just a year is a statistic that should pressure every one of us into action. Now, whilst these groups are leading the way, we all have a responsibility to do our bit, and I encourage everyone to find out about your local group and go along if you can. You'll be doing your bit for the environment, and who knows, you might make a few new friends in the process, all working towards the same goal. And that includes us politicians getting out with our litter pickers as well.
Angus MacDonald, followed by Jackie Bailey.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Firstly, I'd like to thank Maurice Corrie for bringing this debate to the Chamber this afternoon. There's no doubting that Scotland's reputation for incredible natural heritage is renowned the world over, and our beaches have a special place within that recognition. Although the weather may not be in the same league, the quality and beauty of our beaches and their surrounding landscapes, I would contend, rival those in the Caribbean or the Pacific Islands. You just have to think of the majestic strands in the Western Isles, and of course my constituency has a couple of beaches which are ideal for a leisurely Sunday stroll along the Forth, or in fact any day of the week. However, it's true to say that across the world, litter pollution on our beaches is a scourge which we all have a responsibility to tackle. And one way we can do this is by working together with the Marine Conservation Society and by taking part in the Great British Beach Clean. I was delighted to be able to take part in the beach clean at Blackness Beach in my Falkirk East constituency on the 21st of September. And it was great to see so many folk out there surveying and clearing litter off a beach that has so much importance in the area. Not only do many from the local communities nearby enjoy it as a beauty spot, but it also complements Blackness Castle, which has become a huge tourist attraction for its role as Fort William in the globally successful TV series Outlander, and its part in the film The Outlaw King about Robert the Bruce. From these points alone, the importance of keeping our shores litter-free helps maintain that global reputation and helps to sustain our local and national economies. However, there's much more to this than just the economic argument. What is vital to the future of our country, or indeed the world, is keeping pollution out of our oceans and seas. The work of MCS is vital to our understanding of litter, where it comes from, and allows us to take forward our plans as to how best to tackle the problem. The most important element of the Great British Beach Clean is that every volunteer is contributing to a scientific survey that feeds information to governments across the world. That information is crucial to how the leaders of the world come together to tackle these environmental issues. Plastic and other pollution within our seas and oceans clearly don't recognise intercontinental boundaries and borders. So locally on our beach clean at Blackness, the 27 volunteers that we had along collected a total of 13 kilos of litter from a 100-metre by 2-metre strip of the beach. Of that, nearly 36% was plastic or polystyrene, around 33% was sanitary waste, almost 19% was glass, and the rest made up of other types of materials. And I was going to touch on the issue of cigarette butts on our beaches. However, the issue has already been mentioned in this debate by Maurice Corrie and Kenny Gibson. So there is, however, a much more positive outcome from the Great British Beach Clean. It's not all doom and gloom. Having been around for some 26 years, more and more people are becoming involved and therefore aware of the impacts of litter in our seas and the impacts that that has on the wider environment. And they're willing to take action to do something about it. So clearly much more to say on this subject, Presiding Officer, as usual, but in closing, I'd like to thank the Marine Conservation Society, Callum Duncan, MCS Head of Conservation, and in particular Catherine Gemmell, MCS Conservation Officer for Scotland, and our team of local volunteers in the Falkirk East constituency for their work in making these beach cleans the successes that they are. And I look forward to working with them all again at some point in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Jackie Bailey, followed by Gillian Martin.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and let me too congratulate Maurice Corrie on securing debating time for this subject, because as Maurice Corrie will be very aware, my constituency has an abundance of beautiful beaches. Some are small and secluded, only occasionally frequented by a lone kayaker. Others are large and attract many people from across the country, both during the summer months when you can't see the beach for the sunbathers, and in the winter months when only the braver among us will go for a bracing walk. It is a truly stunning coastline that we are blessed with. In my opinion, Presiding Officer, there is nothing better than being able to enjoy the great outdoors, especially when you're lucky enough to live in my local area, where we are blessed with not just stunning coastline, but fresh water and inland sea lochs as well, right on our doorstep. It is therefore disappointing to see these beaches not being treated with the respect that our natural environment needs and deserves. I was saddened to learn from the research from the 2018 Beach Watch project, where they found that beach litter in Scotland had gone up by 14% in just 1 year. The effect that that has on local marine wildlife is, quite frankly, disastrous, and the situation will only get worse if we don't act fast. Let me repeat one example given already by Kenny Gibson, which struck me, where a recent study found that 90% of fulmars, a common seabird based around the North Sea, had plastic in their stomachs. The 2018 Great British Beach Clean in Scotland picked up an incredible 75,000 pieces of litter. Well done to the person who counted that. That litter is partly down to people not clearing away their rubbish when they leave the beach. However, rubbish is also washed up onto the beach. So a concerted effort made by all of us to recycle more, to reduce the use of unsustainable containers such as single-use plastics, can also help to address the problems faced by our beautiful beaches. Let me, like others, be slightly parochial and take this opportunity to thank those who volunteer in my local area. The Grab Trust, as well as staff and volunteers from the Loch Lomond and Trossachs National Park, have run fantastic beach cleans in Arica, and let me also pay tribute to Maurice Corrie for doing his bit too. These events have boasted both an impressive turnout from local volunteers, but actually have resulted in great improvements to our local beaches. Marine Scotland, who are running a pilot to address litter sinks, who do important work in my area, estimate that around 62,000 pieces of litter are washed up on Arica's beaches every year. Let me also mention Helensburgh Community Council, who do beach cleans in their area, and Friends of Dumbarton Foreshore, along with the Plastic-Free Dumbarton campaign, who work tirelessly in all conditions to ensure that our beaches are a pleasant environment for all of us. Last year, West Dumbartonshire Council helped the group with an uplift of over 200 bags of rubbish, as well as the countless, typically empty cans and crisp packets that were collected. The group did in fact have a unique experience of finding a 100-year-old coin, a prosthetic limb, they were grateful it wasn't a real one, and the body of a 4-foot python during one of their events. All of these groups, whatever they're picking up, work tirelessly to ensure that our beaches are not only a clean and enjoyable place for us to visit, but also a safe environment for the varied local marine life. The September Beach Clean in Arica collected an astonishing 40 kilograms of litter. Now, many of these groups, as well as doing the beach cleans, also run educational programs to teach younger generations about the importance of protecting and taking care of our local beaches. Although I think, Presiding Officer, after the valiant efforts that we have seen in recent months from young people in this country and around the world about climate change, they perhaps should be the ones teaching us. As we look forward to the 2020 Year of Coasts and Waters, I would encourage all my colleagues from across the Chamber to help protect our beautiful natural environment in order to save local wildlife and keep our beaches and coasts looking beautiful. Thank you.
Gillian Martin, followed by Alison Johnson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I also want to congratulate Maurice Corrie in securing this debate. And last week I had the pleasure of joining with local residents at Forvey National Nature Reserve in the sunshine, quite tropical sunshine actually, to undertake our beach clean. That was organised by Scottish Natural Heritage staff from the Forvey Reserve Station. We had young children, elderly members of the community, and we all met with the common purpose of tackling the tide of plastic pollution that gets washed up on the shore of Newborough Beach and the Forvey Reserve. And I want to thank all the volunteers who joined with me that Sunday. The beach is home to sandy dunes and dunes with marram grass that catches a lot of this litter. Oyster catchers, home to oyster catchers, eider duck, and I must mention over 2,000 grey seals who haul out there, which I'm proud to be the lynx species champion for, all of which are threatened by the wave of litter in our seas and beaches. The vast majority of types of litter that I picked up that day, I think tells a story. I picked up an awful lot of fishing gear, ropes, plastic ropes and netting. And that's the kind of rope and netting that can entangle seals and cetaceans. We're seeing there was one carcass of a seal actually washed up in the beach, and there was a certain amount of entanglement around it as well, which is absolutely tragic. But I also picked up a huge amount of very small plastic fragments. And these are the very dangerous pieces of plastic that actually, so many people have mentioned, get swallowed by seabirds and fish, and they enter the food chain. And they kill fish, birds and marine mammals. And I would say that the crisis in biodiversity globally is as serious as that of climate change. And plastic pollution is a major cause of reduction in the numbers of marine species. People have been talking about the bizarre things that they found on their beach. We were struck by a crisp packet that a young boy found we found that was 23 years old. And that means that another person's inconvenience of putting the rubbish in the bin all those years ago resulted in that packet being left lying in our shores for a couple of decades. And if it hadn't been found by that young boy, it probably would have stayed there for many more decades as well, untouched. And it reminded me of the legacy that we leave for younger generations. And I firmly believe that we need to change what we wish to see in the world in this incredibly important issue. Aside from beach cleans, I've over the summer launched a little campaign of my own locally called Take 5, where I urge people when they go out for their walk, if they're dog walkers or you're just going out for a walk, to pick up just 5 pieces of litter and take it home and recycle them or put them in your own domestic bins. Whether you're off a day at the beach, taking a stroll, or just a trip to the local supermarket, if you've got a little reusable bag in your pocket, it doesn't take much to actually pick up 5 pieces of litter. And I'm going round to schools with that in my constituency to urge young people to do it. I'd like to finish by thanking the Marine Conservation Society for their work on these events. People have mentioned they've picked up 319 tonnes of litter across the whole of the UK in these beaches, and that's an incredible difference that that's going to make to the wildlife on our beaches. And for anyone who enjoyed our morning on the estuary, I would say let's get back out maybe this weekend, because last week's heavy rain has meant there's been a tremendous amount of rubbish washed up on beaches that we so comprehensively thought we'd cleaned a couple of weeks ago. It's an ongoing thing. And I'll leave people with this little mantra that I've been saying to people. Take a wee walk, take a wee bag, and take 5 pieces of litter home. Imagine if we all did that, what a difference it would make.
The last of the open debate contributions is from Alison Johnson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I welcome the opportunity to speak in this important debate, and I'd like to thank Maurice Corrie for bringing it to Parliament this afternoon. Like colleagues, I've taken part in many beach cleans organised by the MCS, and I know how immensely rewarding it is when you turn around and you feel you've helped restore your local beach to its natural beauty. The Marine Conservation Society and volunteers, as we've heard, have picked up 319 tonnes of litter beach cleans across Scotland and England this year. Now, that figure is actually shocking. It does reveal the dedication and enthusiasm of those who get out there and help clean our beaches, but that litter should not be there in the first place. And I think what we see washing up on our beaches is really the tip of the iceberg. It tells us how healthy our oceans and seas are, or in this case, aren't. We're always talking frequently and rightly about protecting our green belts in Scotland, but we need to have the same focus on our blue belts. We have vast swathes of water stretching over our planet. Our oceans are home to complex ecosystems, to all manner of organisms, but they and our shores are being neglected, they are being degraded. In 2007, I became aware of the work of Rebecca Hosking, who was a former BBC filmmaker, and she was behind the ban on Modsbury, a little town in Devon. a ban on plastic bags. And the reason that came about was because she'd photographed birds and sea life on an island far out in the Pacific, I think, that had been killed by plastic. Now, we've all seen those horrendous images. You know, she photographed birds' stomachs, like they were filled with plastic bags, toys, pens, toothbrushes, while their chicks were starving to death. We saw horrible cases of birds feeding their chicks plastic. It made a great impression on her, and I know myself and many other people. In 2007, when I was elected to the City of Edinburgh Council, one of the first motions I put forward was that Edinburgh should become the first plastic bag-free city in the UK. It's fair to say the motion wasn't dismissed outright, but it wasn't, some people clearly thought I was going far too far. Now, times have moved on. We are seeing real progress in this direction, and I think there's a general consensus now that we must do more. And I think Modbury, it was local action. I think it was 43 local businesses who said, we're just not going to use plastic bags. We're not going to sell them, not here, not having them. That's the kind of action we need to roll out across Scotland and beyond. There's no disagreement now that plastic is bad for our oceans, it's bad for our marine life, it's bad for our beaches. And behaviour change is a really important part of what is needed. We've all got to stop littering. Where do we think we're putting this stuff? There is no away. There absolutely is no way. In the beach cleans I've taken part in, it's been cotton buds, it's been sanitary waste, it's been, items that are sold as being flushable. Messaging around what can be flushed in our oceans, it's misleading. The BBC reported last November that all wet wipes sold as flushable in the UK have so far failed the water industry's disintegration tests. They should not be going anywhere near the loo. And they cause up to 80% of blockages in our sewers. They're a key component of fatbergs. These products are being pumped into our oceans. They are littering our shorelines. But there's got to be more collective responsibility. Members may be aware that there are currently 5 ocean gyres, they're called. They collect plastic waste and other rubbish. The gyre in the North Pacific Ocean is sometimes called the Great Pacific Garbage Patch. It's far bigger than a patch. It is like a floating municipal dump. It is massive. You go online, look at it, you'll be absolutely horrified. And I know, cruise ships are an issue as well. In my own region of Lothian, palm oil bergs washed up in Leith and on Portobello Beach. They're thought to be dumped by cruise and cargo ships. So there's just sheer thoughtlessness going on here. I have to ask too, why is business allowed to produce materials that they're not recyclable, they're not biodegradable, they are simply damaging our planet and our local communities too? SEPA have warned that some of these bergs could actually be poisonous to dogs. Our careless attitude towards our oceans can't continue. If we keep dumping waste in our oceans, sooner or later it will, and it is, washing up at our feet. I too would like to, as Angus MacDonald has, thank Catherine Gemmell and thank Callum Duncan and thank the MCS and thank each and every person in Scotland who gets out there in their own time to help clean up our local environment. Thank you.
I now call on Marie Goujon to close this debate and respond to it for around 7 minutes. Please, Minister.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And firstly, I would just like to start by welcoming the Marine Conservation Society to the gallery today and for listening on this debate. But also want to start by genuinely thanking Maurice Corrie for bringing forward this debate today and for recognising this important event. And as well as thanking the Marine Conservation Society for the huge amount of work that they do day in and day out to clean up our seas. And I'm just sorry that we didn't get the chance to debate this prior to the Great British Beach Clean Weekend, where hopefully we could have encouraged more MSPs to take part, but I know that many did. Because I don't think we can underestimate the scale of the problem and the effects on our environment and wildlife. And I think we've just heard that very well and passionately put by Alison Johnson there. But as well as the points that were raised by Kenny Gibson and Jackie Bailey, where we talked about 90% of filmers having plastic in their stomach. I mean, it's absolutely shocking. So we have to do everything we can to try and tackle this problem. It's not an easy thing to do. But the Marine Conservation Society are absolutely instrumental to that work. And they've seen their support grow year on year as more people volunteer their time to pick rubbish off our beaches. And this year was no exception with their 26th Great British Beach Clean, which took place 2 weeks ago. Now, I did also like Maurice Corrie's suggestion that with the Year of Coasts and Waters next year, we use that as a focus to get even more volunteers than ever to take part. Now, we have the best beaches of anywhere in the world, and we all have a part to play in cleaning them and in keeping that way. And it's been fantastic to hear today about each individual members' activities and the work that's taking place all over Scotland, whether that's from the DG Eco Warriors that Finlay Carson mentioned in his constituency. But Angus MacDonald talked about his local event and the clean-up at Blackness. But he does say that we don't have the weather to match our beaches. Well, clearly Angus MacDonald has never visited the Tropic of Montrose, so I'd happily invite him there. But Jackie Bailey also mentioned plastic-free Dumbarton, and I fully support Gillian Martin's initiative of picking up 5 pieces of litter every time we're out and about. It's such an easy, simple and effective thing to do. But as Alison Johnson highlighted again in her contribution, we can always do more. But I couldn't speak in this debate today either without talking about my own constituency and some of the work that's been happening there, because several cleans were organised as part of the Angus Coastal Festival, and they took place across St Cyrus, Montrose Beach, Ferryden and Skirdy-Ness, Lunan Bay and West Sands. And I'm really glad that Angus MacDonald and Alison Johnson both mentioned Catherine Gemmell, and I really want to add my own personal thanks to Catherine of the Marine Conservation Society, who's really been, well, she is the real driving force behind their campaigns and a really big champion of their work. And all of this work is alongside the regular cleans by local community groups who are taking action to clean up our coastline. I joined Montrose Bay Community Group on Sunday, who hold regular sessions at the beachfront there, and where they've put a big focus now on cigarette butts. We heard that from a few members today about the massive problem that they pose. Now, there's also the Johns Haven Sharks, whose aim is to improve the environment, and they organise beach cleans as part of that work. But now to the actions that the Scottish Government is taking to try and tackle this issue. We know that plastic is the main material washing up on our beaches, and that is why we're taking action now. We are challenging Scotland's throwaway culture and using a variety of means to develop an ethos of sustainability, with additional measures proposed in the new Circular Economy Bill, which will be open to consultation soon. Now, the deposit return scheme that was mentioned by Maurice Corrie and Finlay Carson. Our new deposit return scheme is the first national scheme of this type in the UK, and we aim to deliver that by 2021. And we're the first nation to develop a scheme design, and we're proud that it's ambitious. It includes a broad range of materials with a target return rate of 90%. And we think the benefits of that will include increased recycling rates, reductions in carbon emissions, as well as reducing litter. The proposals for the Circular Economy Bill will enable charges to be applied in relation to the provision of some of the most damaging items, such as single-use cups, which generate 4,000 tonnes of waste in Scotland every year. We've committed to banning more problematic single-use plastic items, such as cutlery, plates, food and drink containers made of expanded polystyrene by 2021, and meeting or exceeding the standards that have been set out in the EU Single-Use Plastics Directive. And we're also working to reform the extended producer responsibility system for packaging. We've already introduced legislation on one of the products identified in that directive, banning the manufacture and sale of plastic-stemmed cotton buds, which will come into force on the 12th of October, ahead of the rest of the UK. Litter, of course, that's a massive part of this problem, and that's been raised a number of times today. Our national litter strategy sets out the framework to reduce littering, which can make its way into our waters. It's being refreshed to ensure that it offers effective guidance to deliver litter prevention on the ground. Now, we recognise that additional deterrents for littering are also required and will include a new penalty regime in the Circular Economy Bill for littering from a vehicle. And that means we will hold the registered keeper ultimately responsible for litter dropped from their vehicle. We also have our marine litter strategy with over 40 actions to reduce litter sources, promote behaviour change, improve monitoring and promote international working. And it includes supporting 5 local coastal partnerships that deliver marine litter education and organised cleanups. Now, I recently joined my local partnership, East Grampian Coastal Partnership, as they trialled a new approach to a beach clean just north of Stonehaven, which really was a team effort. The Stonehaven Sea Safari took us to a beach, which is hard to access for cleanups, and the local RNLI lifeboat crew also took part and removed the collected rubbish. And I want to thank Crawford Paris for the work that he and the partnership do, because they do an absolute power of work to clean up our coastline in the North East and work with many local schools too. The marine litter problem is so important that we've also committed to additional work through successive programmes for governments. We delivered an international marine conference in February that was attended by industry, scientists, officials, community representatives and young people, and it was people from across the globe. It provided a platform to discuss and share information to develop solutions for problems as varied as nurdles to marine industry waste. And it also gave us an opportunity to talk about sewage-related debris. At the conference, we also announced our plans to encourage people to move from single-use plastic sanitary products to reusable options. This campaign is due to start next month and will support the reduction of waste and help address social inequalities that are associated with period poverty. We have also supported Water UK to develop a fine-to-flush standard for wet wipes that specifies these products should not contain plastic and must easily disintegrate, and we encourage manufacturers to follow this lead. And we're also committed to action on litter sink areas. We funded Scrapbook, which is managed by the Murrayfirth Partnership, which has mapped the Scottish mainland coastline using aerial photographs taken by the charity Skywatch. This project has facilitated cleanups by signposting volunteers to areas that are most in need and also providing hands-on staff in remote locations. Now, we also pledged to support our coastal and fishing communities to tackle marine litter. And Gillian Martin talked about the problem of fishing gear and the threats that that can pose to seals and cetaceans. We are continuing to support Chemo's Fishing for Litter scheme, which has grown and now involves over 300 vessels in 20 ports that have removed 1,400 tonnes since the scheme began in 2005. But this is a global problem that requires international solutions. We work with other OSPAR contracting parties in the North East Atlantic to find solutions for shared problems. And together, we're considering how to develop an extended producer responsibility scheme for fishing gear and how to implement the Port Reception Facilities Directive to support better waste management in our fishing industry. And we also encourage responsible gear disposal through the Global Ghost Gear initiative. So I hope today I've been able to outline the extraordinary amount of work which is underway and which is still planned. Now, these are issues I'm absolutely passionate about and which I'm absolutely committed to tackling, and whether that's by removing plastics and waste from our seas or preventing it from getting there in the first place. The Great British Beach Clean reminds us just how important that removal element is, and that it's only possible with partnership working. Government has a role to lead, but this is a problem we can only tackle by everyone getting involved. And thank you to the Marine Conservation Society for leading on this and being a real force for positive action.
Gosh, I was running out of the number of alsos there. But that concludes the debate, and this meeting is suspended until 2 o'clock.